Hello, dear. Now that you've read everything I have wrote down on the plans on how to save some money up, how things will look in 3 to 5 years, I thought I'd run this video for you and try and push the last effort of understanding and plans and ideas and all that as a last ditch effort. Okay? This is what I call the must do mission. Okay? And I see ourselves, if we do this right together without fail for any reason at any time, we should be out of here and have what we need in 5 years. Hopefully sooner, but I'm quoting at least 5 years to have a good, substantial amount of money in the bank. Okay? So without further ado and all that, I'm going to run a video here and kind of, I don't know, kind of give you an idea of what's, I mean, I know you know what the deal is, but maybe if you hear it from somebody else, you know, and kind of say it more in a more, I don't know, more better lingo that I can, uh, maybe this will help. Is basically what I'm working on. But other than that, that's where I'm at.
When it comes to this, usually you're going to have to make this a priority over everything else, which means that you're going to have to prioritize saving for a house and maybe scaling back in other areas just to make that happen. And when you're saving for a house, it's really no different than saving for absolutely anything else, except it's saving for a house, obviously. Now, what's the most important when it comes to doing this is just your income in relation to your expenses. This is exactly why banks will want to see 2 years of tax returns. They're going to want to see bank statements. They're going to want to pull your credit. They're going to want to know everything about you to know how much you're making in relation to how much you are spending. This is why it's not enough just to come up with a 20% down payment and then assume that anything else you can qualify for just because you have the 20% down. Banks want to make sure that you didn't come out with like some amazing $200,000 payday for investing in Ethereum when it was like 50 bucks. And then all of a sudden you have no more income to support that. They want to make sure you have consistent income and relatively low expenses. And anytime it comes to saving, the best thing that you should do, and the first thing you should do, is track your expenses. This is probably the most important thing when it comes to saving for anything, is tracking every single penny that goes in and out. Because the best and easiest ways to save money are the things you don't even realize. It's these little tiny expenses that add up over time that can equal a huge amount of money that you could be saving to put towards whatever else you want to do, especially real estate. Just trust me on this one. Things fall through the cracks when you don't track everything. I guarantee it. I promise. You will find a whole bunch of money that you could be saving when you start doing this. So the other strategy I like to do that helps save a lot of money is to automate my savings. And what I mean by this is that the money is automatically saved every single month, so it doesn't even hit your bank account. Out of sight, out of mind is the best way to save money. And what I do is I have a few bank accounts. I use my Ally Bank savings account for every single deposit I make. It all goes into that account. And then I put a set amount into my Bank of America checking account every single month. So I know that that Bank of America checking account is money that I have that I can spend. Everything else I don't touch. And I recommend everyone else do something similar. I found this really helps me out a lot. I don't even look at the other account, and then randomly you might check it out and just be like, damn. You know, and that's what I end up doing. That ends up helping a lot. And when it comes to a bank actually giving you a loan, they generally will look at your income and expenses, and they will not want the mortgage payments and the property payments to exceed 44% of your net income. So what you're doing by showing the bank that you're saving more money, that you're lowering your expenses, you're lowering your debt to income ratio, and therefore that 44% is going to be a lot higher because you're showing less money spent. And again, when it comes to saving for something, it's really all about cutting back on things you really don't need as much as possible. Now, this is how I was able to do it. Now, even though my income was high, it doesn't really matter that, I mean, it does kind of matter that much, but the whole point being is I lived really like I made a few grand a month, and everything else was just stashed away and invested religiously. This is all just about cutting back, living below your means, saving as much as possible just for the purpose of getting what you want, which is hopefully,
Right.
if you're watching this, buying a house. Now, for those of you watching who say, I have no money left over to save, I can't do it, I literally can't save anything, I have two recommendations for you. The first recommendation is to look at your expenses through either Mint or Personal Capital, track where everything is going. In most situations, you should be able to find a few things that you don't really need that you can start cutting back on and start saving. But the reality of the situation is that you need to increase your income. If you're not earning enough, unfortunately, there's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way around it. You're going to need to earn more money. The reality is you're going to have to sacrifice a lot to make this happen if you're not earning enough money in the first place. This really has to be a focus and a dedication to increase your income as much as you can, decrease your expenses as much as you can, just for the focus of making this happen. It might be worth it to take a part-time job or do a side hustle or maybe start something online. Or maybe start looking at other jobs that might pay more, or maybe try to expand your skills to start to earn more money. You'll need to do something to end up making more money. And once you do start making more money, it's really important to keep your expenses the exact same as they are now, and just to save the difference between what you're spending right now and what you're earning in the future when you start making some more money. This is something you could start now that will pay off in the future with patience and with dedication. I really believe that this is one thing that if you want it bad enough, you will somehow find a way to make it work. Now, one more thing I do when it comes to saving is to keep it in a high interest savings account. Now, what I use is Ally Bank. They offer 1.45% interest on all of your money. Again, all of these things, they sound like ads, but these are just things that I use myself that I like. So there you go, Ally Bank. Now, a lot of people ask too, why don't you just go and invest the money instead? If the stock market has historically returned 8% a year, why don't you just invest it and earn 8%? The reality is that it doesn't do 8% every single year. Some years might be 20%, other years might be negative 20%. And in a short time horizon, less than 5 years, I have no idea what the market is going to be doing. Long term, if I were investing, let's say for 10 plus years, I'd put it in the market. If I'm doing something for maybe just 1 to 5 years, I don't want to risk the money in the market. It might be worth more, it might be worth less. I do not want to risk this money being worth less when I don't know what the market is going to be doing in the short term. And ultimately, when it comes to saving up for a house or a down payment or really anything for that matter, it's really just all about how much money you make and how much money you spend and how much of that you can actually save. That's what banks look at when determining what sort of loan they're going to give you and how comfortable they are in giving you that loan. And like I mentioned before,
See, that's the whole point. We, as in me and you, have got to get our shit together, okay, and put, like you've seen on the blog there that I showed you. You put 250, I put 250. That's $500 a month, and we do this religiously, like clockwork, on the money every month, and not touch it for any reason. Okay, we can do this, baby. We really, seriously, truly can. We just got to stick to it. We've got to make a plan and a stand. Okay? We really, truly want to get out of this place, get away from everybody, get another place, and just get something that we really want. We have to stick to the plan. Okay? So, with that said, I'm going to pause this for just a minute and do something else.
what lenders look for when you actually go and buy a property. Because let's be real here, if you want to buy real estate, you got to come up with enough money to actually buy real estate. So let's go back to the basics here. Talk about exactly how to save up enough money for a down payment and what lenders look for when they determine whether or not they're going to lend you money. These are the basics, and it all starts here. So before I get into the aspect of saving money for a down payment in real estate, it's going to require a few things ahead of time from you. And the first one is to have a good credit score. Now, ideally, you want a 740 or higher to get the best rate possible. Once you go above a 760, this is when lenders start to offer you lender credits in the sense that they can rebate you on certain items or give you slightly better terms from their end of the deal. If you go lower than about 720, 700, they end up charging you out the in interest. You don't want to do that because that means the real estate just becomes more expensive. The deal becomes more expensive, and that eats into your profit margins. So the second thing that most lenders are going to want to see is 2 years of tax returns. Now, some lenders won't need 2 years of tax returns. It also depends on your job and if you're a W-2 or a 1099 or how you make your money. But a lot of lenders will generally want 2 years of tax returns. The whole point of this is they want to make sure your income is consistent and going up over time. They want to make sure you didn't have one amazing year last year and then this year you earn no money. And then you actually started losing money because crypto is down. What am I going to do? So they want to make sure that that is not going on. And this is also why it's a good idea where if you know you're going to be buying real estate in the next 2 years, not to deduct a whole bunch of money off your tax return. What lenders look at is your net income after all of your deductions. I made this mistake in the very beginning with my income because I deducted everything. And then lenders look at me and they'd be like, wait a second, you deducted all these things, so we're going to loan you based off the lower amount. And I'm like, but no, I bought those things purposely just to deduct them. I don't need to buy anything. So just to keep in mind that if you know you're going to be buying real estate over the next 2 years, it might be a good idea to show as much income as possible because that way a lender will give you a larger loan based off of that income. So the next thing lenders are going to want to see are bank statements. And sometimes they'll want to see the last 2 months of bank statements. Sometimes it goes as far back as 6 months. It's really to check what money is coming in and where money is coming out. If they see a whole bunch of very large cash deposits that might be kind of suspect and they might think, wait a second, maybe this guy's trying to buy a house, he's actually growing weed in the garage of the house he's renting from Graham Stephan, maybe that's a concern. Or if they see money coming out of your account in cash like every single day, they think, wait a second, this guy might have an addiction like FouseyTube, and maybe we should be a bit concerned about his spending habits. So the whole point of looking at bank statements is to track exactly where your money is coming and going and being able to source those. And by source those, it means you're able to trace where that money came from and where that money went. Banks also like to do this to make sure that nobody's like feeding you money just to pump up your income to make it seem like you're earning more than you actually are. I've seen this a lot of times where parents might, pretend to employ their kid or whatever at like, here's $10,000 a month just to kind of pad their account. Banks really want to make sure that money is coming from a legitimate source that's recurring and that's stable and not just someone like, handing money off. And then you close the deal and then all of a sudden the money just goes back to the original person. This is also to make sure that even though you might be earning $10,000 a month, let's say, that you're not spending $15,000 a month consistently and just running at a deficit every single month. And then finally, a bank is going to want to see what's called cash reserves. And typically a bank will want to see anywhere from 2 months to sometimes 6 months worth of mortgage, interest, taxes, insurance, all of these great things in a cash reserve. The whole point of this is just to make sure that you don't buy this deal and then the next month you're tapped out, you got no more money, and then all of a sudden you can't make the next payment. And a cool little life hack here about needing cash reserves is that they'll often take into account retirement accounts. Now, they don't take into account the full thing. They might take into account 75% of it. But the good thing about that is that you're going to be probably saving for retirement anyway. You're already going to have some accounts anyway. So a lot of lenders will actually use this. You can kind of get over that initial cash reserve phase or whatever you would like to call it by holding money in a retirement account. This is the best of both worlds from my perspective. Again, not financial advice. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about actually how to save up enough money. Now, when it comes to buying real estate, you'll need to put some money down. This is what's called your down payment. Banks like to see that you invest your own money and risk your own money in the deal. And whatever money you put down forms your initial equity in the property. Now, from what I usually see in a market like Los Angeles is that generally people are putting about 20% down. Some people are putting a little bit less. I'm saying maybe on the lower end, about 15%, on the higher end, maybe about 30%. But about 20% is what I'm seeing. This gives the bank some cushion in the event that they need to foreclose, that you take the first 15 to 20% of the loss on that deal. So if you don't end up putting 20% down on the deal, you'll generally pay what's called PMI, which stands for private mortgage insurance. This is just an extra cost tacked onto the loan to ensure the bank that you're not going to foreclose on the deal since you have less money tied up in the property. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, like PMI is not the end of the world. It usually ranges anywhere from 0.5% to 1% of the total loan amount annually. Or sometimes you can pay it upfront ahead of time, and that money does not go towards your equity. It's just an additional fee tacked onto your loan. So you'll need to evaluate for yourself whether or not it's worth it to pay the PMI, or whether or not you should just wait and come up with the 20% down. If you're confident the market is going to soar and just going to continue to go up, it might be better to jump in now, get the PMI just to get the deal versus paying 10% a year later. But again, it's a bit of a risk you have to take, and PMI can add up to a lot of money over time. So what I recommend, if you do end up putting less than 20% down and you do end up paying PMI, my best recommendation is to refinance your loan once you have 20% equity in the property, just to get rid of that PMI and then go on as usual without the PMI. Now, for everyone else out there, including you, Meets Kevin, because I know you're going to be watching this right now, and I know you're going to be saying, you don't need 20% down in the deal, or I'm going to get some random person being like, but my uncle bought a place for 5% down. But my sister's cousin's best friend bought a place, FHA, 3.5% down. What about those people, Graham? Dislike, unsub, unfollow, block, report as spam. There's always one of you guys out there. One of you guys, always one. And my thing is this. If you can get qualified, if you can actually get an offer accepted and close a deal with 3.5% down or 5% down, more power to you. It totally depends on the area, the price range, how competitive that market is, and what income bracket you are. I mean, there's a lot of variables to this. But of course, if you can get a good rate long term with low money down, by all means. You can even look into VA loans where sometimes you can put zero money down in a deal. So these are all things you should look into. I typically don't see it. But regardless of whether or not you're saving 5% down or 20% down, the strategies of saving, from my perspective, are pretty much the same. So we'll now get into the how to save for a down payment aspect of real.
And that's the whole point in the ball game. To save money, to show a good income. Like you said, they're going to want to see the bank statements. So we can do that. We don't pay taxes, so that's out of the equation. They're going to see a study income, so that works. So we got this in our favor. The only thing we ain't got is the money to show for it. So to do that, we have really got to crack down, the both of us, and put $500 a month down in another bank account. Okay? And this will be our money saving up for a place to live and to get out of here. And just for say, maybe quote unquote, we do get lucky and sell this place, that money can go towards another place. But for what I'm looking at, I ain't even thinking about that. But it would be a blessing big time if we could sell this place. Okay? So I'm not really thinking we can, but if we could, it'd be nice just to get out from under it. Okay? If Vicky wants to buy it, which I totally doubt, but that's here nor there. But what I'm thinking is, if we don't even base the facts on selling this place, okay, because it's going to take forever for this place to sell, okay? So we just work on putting $500 a month down every month in this new bank account religiously. You 250, me 250. That's $500. And as you see in the scale that I wrote down, on how we could add this, how we could do this without no incidents or no excuses or reason or whatever. We can do this in 5 years, but we gotta stick to it. That's all I have to say. We have to stick to it. Okay? Once we get the two accounts that I got paid off, your bank account loan paid off, car paid off, the house paid off, or the property, I wouldn't call this a house. That'll be extra money we can stick into the savings for another place. Okay? This again is why I say 3 to 5 years. So we really got to do this. Okay? There's no if, buts, whys, hows, who's, about it. No excuses. Okay? The sooner we can get up the money, 30 to 50,000 will be a blessing to get us in a decent place, and our payments be low. We don't want to go out and buy the highest priced place there is because we have it. Most of that money is going to be going down for a down payment. Okay, because like he said, the more you can put down, the better your payments will be. So there you go. That's the whole point of the ball game. That's the way I see it. Um, and I mean, you're not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger. And I don't want to live here for the rest of our lives. Not my life, but your life, our lives, both of us. So if you can see that and agree to it and work with me on it, we can do this. Seriously. Okay? One way or another, we got to get serious. We got to put all this propaganda aside, all the excuses aside, and do what needs to be done starting this year. Okay? And I don't see why we can't do it. I mean, that little $255 a month you're gonna be getting, that can be going in savings account. My money, I gotta have some money in my original account to pay off the two bills I got going. So I'm gonna be putting my extra 250 in the other account. So I get, you know, I get the two bills I got paid off, and put 250 in the other account, and we'll have $500 a month. You know, I mean, both our monies are coming at the same time. Why not do it at the same time? Okay. Just because we have extra money don't mean we can go stupid and go spend it on whatever. You know, like you said, we're gonna have to cut our budget. You know, cut some things out, going out to eat and just going and buying stuff and this, that, and the other. Okay, I mean, when we didn't have no money, we were frugal and as cheap as we could. Why can't we do it now? Is basically the whole point in the ball game. Just because we got extra money don't mean we got to spend it. We can start putting that money in the bank and saving it to get our asses out of here. Okay? So if you can work with me and we get on this and we do what needs to be done, we can get out of here. And I don't want to hear no excuses. I don't want to hear no reason, rhymes, or whatever. Except, yes, we can do this and we will do this. And that's my scenario. You know, I'm not a smart person, but I know I'm smart enough to know that if you start saving up some for a place, you can do this and make it a must-do thing, as I call a must-do mission. Okay, so that's the whole point in the ball game, baby. You and me and 6 dogs and getting our butts up out of here. Okay, and the sooner the better. in 3 to 5 years is what I'm looking at, depending on how much money we can save and put back within that length of time. Okay? I love you, and that's my blog, my plans, my ideas, my thoughts, and anything else you want to put in there.